Hello, everybody. We're here for some bonus content. We have our jury of Season 5 Monteverde. They're gearing up for our Final Ascent, but before we get there tomorrow, we're going to dissect the finalists. Let's talk about all of their games. I'm Shane Byrne. With me, of course, I have the jury, our fabulous jury of Monteverde, and I also have, from last season, Dixon Wong. How's it going?
Doing good. Doing good.
Good. All right. We're just gonna make this pretty informal. Go through all of finalists. We'll talk about different aspects of their games. Feel free to chime in whenever you have anything you'd like to add. If you want to question your other jurors, this is your time. You're the ones who have a big decision to make.
So I just want to encourage you guys as a former jury member, just to keep an open mind. Obviously, as players, you guys didn't know what everything was going on behind the scenes. As mods, we actually saw everything and everything that happened. So unfortunately for you guys didn't see it. But one of our first questions, so we'll start with David. So why does David deserve to win this game? And anybody can start. Anybody can start.
I'll just go ahead and say, David has played an amazing social game. I think we can all agree with that. Not only has David played a very social game, he's been personable. I think he's done pretty good in challenges. Even though he's only won one that I can remember, he's made some great connections with everybody that's on the jury right now. From my point of view, he really hasn't stabbed anybody in the back to the point that they're super mad. I think we all still love David. And if you look at everyone that's remaining in the game, if you're voting for who might have, the jury's back the most, support, it might be David. And I don't think he's really done anything wrong. That's just from my point of view.
Jack, I would love to hear your thoughts on this to weigh in because I've definitely been in rooms watching you and David interact, and it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah, I gotta say that I agree mostly with you, Randy. However, I will say me and David had a conversation where we talked to each other and we basically said the door was closed, we're not aligned, things like that. And then he proceeded to say that if I went to the end and he was on the jury, I would not get a jury vote. And that he made that agreement at the final 8.
He did tell me that. So, once Shane asked you the question, I was like, shoot, I forgot about Jack.
My thing is, I think David has played a good social game, but I think at times he might have been getting ahead of himself and maybe either promising too much or giving too much. I also feel like he tried to overgive respect to me at the final 5 and the final 4. He was like, Jack, I respect you so much. I respect you so much. You're great. And so I think it's a very strong social game, but I also think that it may just be a little too much and feel a little, I don't know.
Forced.
Yeah, a little forced.
Yeah. Me and him were working pretty close since the Green Tribe. And he would tell me he had all these things and he wanted to use them together. And we played this game together, but he was pretty open about Jack. He didn't like how when you played the compasses, I didn't give a shit. I thought it was badass. You put your sunglasses on and you were like this. Dude, it's a game and you killed it. And he was upset about it. So I think he definitely had a little thing with you. I don't know if it was game plan to try to put the target consistently on you or not. But overall, I feel not to talk about Robbie because we're not talking about Robbie yet, but David made really good alliances. When I set him and Robbie to the summit, he also had that alliance from the start. But since then, he really took off with Robbie and Simona. He had me. He had being in the know with a Robbie and Simona as well. So I think he just built great relationships and didn't stab anybody in the back. Now, did he play a better game than Robbie? That's what I'm going to have to ask him because I would love to vote for David, but I think Robbie played a bomb game. I really want him to tell us why he truly deserves to win over Robbie because I think he didn't play as bloody as a game as Robbie.
Yeah, I'd like to say as well, I think that what I'd also like to see from David going into this final ascent is if targeting me and voting me specifically and out of his way voting me at certain crossroads was an intentional strategy to lower his threat level. And if it was, that is some really strong strategic thinking. Otherwise, it feels to me as if it's a little bit of pettiness. But
Oh, I would like to weigh in on it, David. I honestly, kind of talking back to what Mike was saying, I don't respect the gameplay that he did. I get that we are attached to the game, but to take things personally and then to have that as the verdict to want to get Jack out consistently and spread those things, like, I think we need to be able to honor each other's gameplay. Now, if he's not a showboaty person, if he didn't want to play the compasses the way Jack did with the music and all of that, okay, fine, but you don't ding someone for doing that, because the same way that he's calling Jack arrogant, I could call him fake, right? Because how do I know that you were being genuine with me? Maybe you were just trying not to be as showboaty as Jack. I don't know that to be genuine. The other thing is, like, personally, and this is just me, like, be upfront with what you're saying. You guys are saying that he played a good social game, but I can see the lines where he went down and was targeting different people. There was times that he came in and said he wanted Lori out. There was times that he wanted to work with me and Jack to get Mike out. He even wanted Randy and Simona out. So what are you guys saying when you're saying that he was being loyal and he was being stand up, like he didn't stab anybody? I don't see that. I see that he was messy, and at times it depended on where he needed to be that night, and he said what he needed to say that night to remain in the game that night. I will give him credit for that, but to say that he strategically did that and that was the way that he mapped out this game, I need to hear those words come from his mouth, and not that he was reacting or responding to something that was going on that particular night and that particular time. And I don't think that's the case.
I mean, I'll admit, I hope Jack can still hear me right now, because I'll own up to it. I agreed. I didn't like how Jack handled his like third or fourth compass play. I respect it, and I respect him finding all of them. I did not like the showboatiness, like, once we got to that point. But on the flip side, I see where you're coming from too. I don't think that should be a reason not to vote someone. You guys all know that when Jack was still in the game, I was still contemplating voting Jack if he made it to the final three. I was not holding that against Jack, but I do see where David's coming from, because I did feel like at that point, it was a little bit showboatiness. Like, we get it. You can find it. Congratulations. But at the same time, I feel like David should have went straight to Jack and said that. And I don't think he should have held that against Jack's game, because it is an amazing move to be able to find that many compasses. Lady K, I get what you're saying, where it's like, if you have a problem, man up and talk to him about it. And then that shouldn't be held against Jack just because you don't like that. I mean, he kind of earned the right to be cocky. He found 6 compasses. Like, he kind of earned it.
Yeah, they have a good point. And I think maybe David's gameplay was his name was being thrown out right after the merge, and he started getting paranoid, maybe started branching out and talking to people to get certain people's out because he knew he was being targeted. So Robbie never really had his name down once, which is fucking pretty badass. But like, how did David get to the final 3 with his name being thrown out a lot? Was it his alliances or was it his gameplay? But I guess I want to hear, you were in the final 3, you got your name thrown out a lot. How did you do it? Because I'm willing to vote for you, David. Tell me right now. Because Robbie didn't get his name down once. How did you get to the end? So he's just got to answer questions about how did he get to the end and everything else you guys just said.
Yeah, those are great responses. Jenny, Madison, Lori, we haven't heard anything from you guys. Would you guys like to piggyback off of that a little bit?
Well, I have known David since Green. We were on Green for quite some time before the merge. When Jack came on to the Green party, he began to play his compasses time after time and just methodically was picking us off one by one. Those of us who thought we were the core group of those on the Green party. And in all of the interactions that I had with David at that time, he did seem genuine. That's not to say that he was somebody else around other people. And like Lady K said tonight, and I know that she's mentioned this before, that at one time or another, at least one time, that David threw my name out. And I don't know if it was the night that I was actually voted out or if it was a different time, if he was sort of planting the seed all along and just leading me to believe that that he wasn't. But as far as his interactions socially, I do think he did well with playing that. It was a little petty how he was getting irritated with Jack. I mean, kudos to Jack. I mean, if I got that many compasses, maybe I would have thrown on some shades and flaunted my shit too. Who knows?
I mean, I probably talked to
Go
David
ahead.
the least. I'm sorry, I probably talked to David the least amount other than Randy. So I don't really have a huge opinion on David, but Simona and Robbie have both broken my trust multiple times. So it's hard not to take that into account when going into voting. When I have one person who has never done anything wrong to me, we helped each other out, and then we have two people who have backstabbed me multiple times.
And I had the opportunity to work with David at the beginning, so I kind of got to meet him right away. And I do think genuinely he was playing a very good social game.
He was able to not have a number 2 and still make it to the end and not burn any bridges. Even though he said some stuff to Jack that were super petty, even Jack, it's not, and this kind of speaks to Jack's personality as well. Even Jack isn't sitting here saying, I'm not voting for him. No. Even though he was petty, none of us are so burnt by him voting us out that we are refusing to vote with him.
So I'd like to ask one question, and I'll ask this for every finalist when we get there. But just raise your hand if you think David engineered your vote out of the game.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
And
I don't know.
As I said, we'll do this for every finalist, but maybe no hands come up for any of them. Maybe all hands go up for all of them. We'll see what happens. But I saw at least Jenny's hand.
So what do you guys think the biggest flaws in David's games were?
I think he could be really emotional sometimes. Like when things didn't go his way, he got really petty and really sassy. And there was one time where after a vote, he was really upset. He used both his votes and Jack used his compass. And I was like, dude, you can't show your emotions like that. People are going to say, dude, David's emotional and you got to tip your cap or just put on a fake face, dude. Be like, you played me. That was awesome. So I think he was really emotional when he didn't get his way. That was the one thing that threw me off about David. But that's probably what I would say. Just emotional when he didn't get what he wanted.
David, to me, put his targets on Jack and I. Hand over foot, Jack and me, Jack and Lady K, Jack and Lady K. But to that point, how did no one else figure out he was playing everybody? I could, for the life of me, if once me and Jack are gone, all of you guys simply can't think that he's going to take you. That was my point. I kept trying to speak to everybody. You guys, he's putting your names out consistently all the time, whether it's just me and I would get off a phone or out of the room with Jack and go into another room with Jenny or go into another room with Robbie or go into another room with Madison. It just depended on that night. So maybe that's a mastermind Randy was saying, but to me the emotional imbalance, I don't think it was thought out strategic enough. I just think it was a happenstance that he's here. I like it says, I can't validate that because I don't know the inner workings of his games. If he comes on and he can prove that, then that's something different. But from the outside looking in, it just looks it just happened and I landed here. Were you pulling the strings? I don't necessarily think so because everyone could see that he was emotionally distressed or angry from night to night, depending on what went on in his call. So I'm calm down, David. We're playing a game. Let's have fun. And I don't know. I agree with Mike 100%.
And you know why? It's because he was close to Robbie and Robbie was close to all you guys. So that's why I was shocked when I went home because I was like, damn, I'm not emotional. I told Robbie I'm with him. I thought Dave would be more erratic than me, which he was. But I think David was so close to Robbie and Simona. So I think he was just in that perfect alliance to that's why Robbie's here too, because he was in so many alliances and David was part of that. So he was protected. And people who wasn't in that got picked off, and that's why we're here.
So
but I agree. Yeah.
So speaking of Robbie, why would you guys say Robbie deserves to win this game?
I feel like you can see Robbie making bolder moves or at least trying. But I do feel like he's one you saw make the moves and try to do the things. And
for Robbie's game, I'd like to say I think that when I thought of it at the final five between him and Randy being my two biggest threats to get to the end. I thought Robbie is more of the smooth operator. Like when he talked to people, there was a sense of comfort, there was a sense of control, but it wasn't overbearing. And I think that Robbie has done a very good job at making people feel comfortable. And I can speak to that myself because I know I did not do a great job at that. I did not make people comfortable with my gameplay and how I talk to them. I knew Robbie did. He was the exact polar opposite from me. So I think he's done a very good job with that. But hand in hand with that, loyalty goes with that as well. I think that while he definitely betrayed a lot of people and burned a lot of people to Simona and David, people that he could have been loyal to for many, many, many rounds of the game, with Simona the whole game pretty much. I think, I think that speaks to a strong game, loyalty and being the smooth operator.
I definitely have to second Jack's sentiment on that. I don't know if you guys remember one of those crossroads when I was like, I'm standing here and I know he's lying to me and I'm still not going to vote for him. I was talking directly about Robbie. Like he voted against me 4 times. And every time after we would come back to camp, he was like, Lady K, I got to talk to you. Let me apologize. Let me apologize. Let me pull you in. Let me pull you in every time. And it wasn't like I knew he was going to burn me, like I could see it, but I still believed, like, not this time. He's not going to do it this time. He's not going to do it this time. And every time his poker face let me down. So like I definitely have to agree with Jack there. And what Jenny said, like this season was packed. I will be honest and say I haven't watched the entire other seasons, but this season to me was stacked. We had some good players, we had some good movement, we had some good competition. And someone who represents a season that I play in needs to be the image of what our season should be. And to me, the final 3, Robbie gives that. He was strategic. He had a social game, and he aligned himself with winners, which means he didn't necessarily need to win, right? So, like, I think those are all things that matter to me. Like, his game was out front. He didn't get dragged to the end. He controlled his game. He controlled his narrative. He wrote his story, and that's important for me as a winner. And he's still voting me out, and I'm still saying that.
That's what I mean. Like, it comes to the point where it's like, all right, he voted out pretty much everybody. And do you respect the way he voted you out? Do you respect the way he lied to you? Do you respect the way he used a lot of us? Are you going to reward that as a winner? Or are you going to say, I don't like the way you did that? But I'm both. I don't like the way he lied to me. I don't like the way he used me. So that's like why I don't want to vote for him. But then I could also vote for him because he never got his name written down, I think, right? I don't think he ever did. Like, and he, in my mind, is the reason, one of the main reasons why all of us are sitting here. So you don't get this far, or like Lady K said, he was the one who made his own way. He's the one who created a lot of plans, who lied to a lot of people. But I think that was his idea and his way to get to the end, and he did. So like, I don't like the way he lied to me, but I could also reward him with a vote because he played a great game. I just have to figure out if I want to vote for Robbie.
Yeah. I guess I have to say that I agree with all y'all's points. And thinking back to mine, I do think that the smooth operator is definitely a pro for him, but I also think that it could be a con for him because personally, I don't know much about him. I know that he has like 60 plus Funko Pops in his room. That's about it. So I don't really know much about him. And I think that it almost gives me a sense that he was maybe a little too close off, where I feel like I really couldn't connect or work with him as much. And I felt like that door was always kind of near the bottom.
What would you guys say that Robbie's best move was in this entire season?
That's the funny thing. I don't think any of the moves were his moves. Working close with Robbie and Simona all season, every time we were in a room together, Simona came up with it first, and Robbie took it. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't vote for Robbie. I mean, that's, kudos to Robbie. If he was the one who brought it up to you guys, that's on Simona. But I just know that's how I'm looking behind the scenes at it. Robbie, I'll just add, Robbie might be the one person I can't vote for. I don't like to be petty, and I don't like the petty people on Survivor. But Robbie and I did get to know each other really well, and talking about hanging out after the game me going down to Florida and visiting him and meeting his boyfriend. So like, and I still plan on that. I don't hate the guy. But there was a time this season when he asked me, where am I in your game? When it comes down to you, Simona, and myself, where do I lie? Am I below Simona or above Simona? And I said, I'll be honest, because he told me at the get-go, he wants to play with someone who is 1,000% honest with him, never lies. And so I said, it's about a 50-50. If it was between you and Simona, I don't know. So I was trying to be honest with him. And I played the entire game 1,000% honest, which is exactly what he wanted. And then for him to cut ties with me when we were talking, just from my point of view, when we were talking, me, Simona, Robbie, final 3, let's do this. For him to cut ties with me and keep Jack in the game, no offense, Jack, but that hurt. And then to keep David over me too. I guess from everyone who's remaining, I'm too hurt by Robbie to even consider it. And I hate to say that, and I will listen to what he has to say, but I am not happy with how Robbie ended my game when I gave him everything he was looking for.
I don't know if
agree
this is
with
going
you.
to help Randy. And I said this before in the jury house, and it's not to say that it's going to help you feel any better, but he told me flat out he's a jealous person, and that's why he had to take Jenny from me, and that's why he wanted to take Jack from me. If you were not telling Robbie that you were his number one, he was going to cut you, and he's proven that over and over again. So I don't know if that makes you feel better, but I mean, bad play on my part.
Yeah.
That was a lie that I could have told. It was something that I could have, I never told. I mean, I was honest. Like I kept saying, it's no higher or lower in this 6. It's no higher or lower in that 6. And the same direct questions he was asking you, he was asking me. In those moments, I put that on me. I could have said like, yeah, Robbie, let's do it to the end. Let's go to the end. Like it's us strong. But I think by us being in this game and adding that paranoia and not giving him those answers, that's kind of what he was looking for. He wanted someone to say like, I'm your final 2. So if we're giving David credit for not having a final, we have to give Robbie that same credit because technically he feels like he didn't have that final and he was scrapping from the bottom. Where did he sit in that 6? Where did he sit in y'all 3? Where did he sit when it came to our 4, me, Jenny, Jack, and Robbie? Where did he sit when it came to me, Cole, Madison, and Robbie? Like he had so many different packs and he was just trying to figure out where he was in those packs. And to him, I guess he just felt like he was always scrapping from the bottom.
Well, he was. I did. Yeah. No, that does help. I like how you put that. I did tell him at one point, yes, I've got you. Because especially after he saved me at the tie vote, I told him I owed my game to him. Like I owed him my game. And that did mean a lot to me. It just, I think in his mind, going off the jealousy thing that you said, that could have been the reason. It could have been, he was always nervous about me and Simona, or Simona and I, if you want me to be correct grammar wise. But anyways, and truthfully, when it came down to my vote, I still was leaning more towards Simona than him, even though I was telling him he's my number 2. So yeah, I'm really not trying to be petty. I don't think anyone should be petty. It's a game. The point of the game is to vote people out. I'm just trying to get over it before tomorrow night's Final Ascent because I am still hurt at this moment. And I haven't decided if I want to ask him for an apology because honestly, I don't feel like he has to apologize to me. It's part of the game. But that might be what it takes for me to kind of forgive and forget him.
So Jenny, as an original Fishback member too, what is your perspective of Robbie? We haven't heard that much from you.
Yeah, so for Robbie, so Robbie doesn't. When we first started, I knew when we were voting out the first person from watching Token Cheens that they were not going home, that they were going to end up with an advantage. I looked through everybody, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but I actually picked Robbie because I looked and I thought Robbie looked honest. If anybody's going to get that advantage, he looks like it was between actually Robbie and Randy. Those were the 2 people out of everybody that I just felt like from that brief look at everybody who should go in. And I think at that point, him not knowing he was more of a Big Brother fan, not really watching Survivor. I think he just never trusted me after that, which was not my intention. But that's okay. But I do. I mean, I think he seemed like a good guy. Definitely very social, and I think he had a lot of strategy going in. And I just feel, yeah, he just seemed to really get paranoid more than anything with not having that one specific person that is the final two.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about Simona. Why do you guys think she deserves to win this game over Robbie and David?
I
Some of the big
love
moves she's made.
Simona. Absolutely love Simona. She to me is the Michelle of this season. I don't remember what season Michelle was on. Michelle Fitzgerald, who came back for Winners at War. And the first time I watched that season, I was so mad and said, that's a GOAT winner. She didn't deserve it. I can't believe she won. But then when I watched Winners at War and went back and watched her season again, I had a whole new perspective and a whole new respect for her game. Yes, Simona hasn't been at the forefront, but I'm telling you guys, behind the scenes, every idea that Robbie came up with, Simona came up with it first. And yes, I know that's kind of on Simona, but she didn't burn any bridges at all. I don't know anyone here who was burned by Simona. She was almost on the right side of every single vote. Her and Robbie were like this. And in terms of who I think played the better game out of the two, I think it's Simona. I think she played a better social game. She was able to fly under the radar more. Lucky for you guys, I'm going to lose my voice, so I'm almost done. But yeah, I really respect Simona's game. And I'm probably 90% voting for her tomorrow. I think she played an amazing game. And I think she was pretty good at the challenges too.
I never really had the opportunity to play with her at all because I was the first vote out, the first jury member. So since she wasn't on the same party, never really got a chance to work with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think she definitely has less blood on her hands than Robbie. They were definitely working hand in hand, so their move is their move. Now, who created that is the bigger question. When I thought I was working with David, Simona, and Robbie, I had a good relationship with David. I had a pretty good relationship with Robbie, but like Simona, anytime we were on a one-on-one chat, she like didn't give me much, or she like wouldn't show me her personality where David would. Robbie would a little bit. Robbie would lie to my face, but he would, talk to me, And Simona would always just be short, so I don't really have that much of a relationship with Simona. I do think she made good moves. I do think she was on the right side of many, 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 many votes. Didn't lie as much as Robbie, but maybe she didn't play hard enough to do that. I don't know. But one thing, and it maybe shouldn't dictate my vote, but like when Lady K went home, I remember she cried. She was like, it's going to be a hard vote. Like, these are all my friends. And then Lady K gets voted out, and she's like, you know why? Because your friend didn't go home. Show some respect to someone who played this game hard for 2 weeks at a time. Yeah, you might not have been working with them, but like a little thing like that bothered me. I wasn't working with Lady K. I wasn't working with Jenny. But when Jenny went home, was I like this? No, I sat there and just, yeah, it sucks when you go home. Like, that's like a little thing where she's 19, maybe she's young, but like, you don't do that shit. You don't say it's going to be a sad vote. You're going to cry when you're upset. And then you get your way and you're smiling. That was rude. That was fucking rude.
So your name got brought up in that Lady K. What do you think of that?
Where Randy's 90% sure that he's going to vote for her, I'm 190% she will never get my vote. And not for the reason that Mike said it, but I respect a game player. I respect someone that's going to own their game, who's going to play their game, who's going to stand up in their shit if they make it. And this airheadedness that she had was under my skin. Like, we just got off 3, 4, 5 calls. You knew you were in a room for Randy for 40 minutes. Oh, I'm so worried because I was in the call with Randy for 40 minutes. You guys, please don't vote me out. Like, own it. Like, own where you are. Like, and that just got to me every time we came on. It was, I don't know what we're doing. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. What are we saying? Like, we had keywords and everything, and every time we got there, she was just like, oh, I don't know. It ruffled my feathers to the utmost. So like, that's a pet peeve, not pet. I'm not being petty. It's just a pet peeve. Like, just own your stuff. And I didn't think into consideration what Mike said. Maybe she is younger, so maybe, I mean, that's what happened. But like, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand if you was making these moves, stand up in it, own it, take it. If I'm going down, I'm going down swinging. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here with the smile on my face. Own it. And she did not own it for me. She did not own it. So she does not get my respect. Not going back to what I said about Robbie, not for a season that played their heart out. The season played their heart out. And I don't see her playing her heart out. I see her even in conversations, and I'll say this too, she sat back, she listened to conversations, we will say something, Simona, then we'll get in, oh, I'm on board, I understand everything, everything's cool, and at the last minute, she's like, no, what am I doing? I don't understand. Oh, my roommate's making noises. It got underneath my skin. I'm done.
I think there is a very fine line between completely owning what you did and being completely aloof. And I think he played that line to the point of where he not only never owned what she did, but she never had the mentality that she knew that she owned what she did. That was a lot of words. My point is, I feel like I could almost read her mind when she was talking to me, because it felt like every time we talked, there was just that sense there that she really wanted to all just pretend this whole game she's done absolutely nothing and has been along for the ride with a few allies. When she gets to the end, she puts it all together in this surprise performance and capitalizes on all the things that people don't think. But the thing is, that's possible if you can sell that well. And I don't think she's done a good job of that. I think while she has been very good at, deflecting the blame, maybe, and getting that off of her so that she's maybe not too much of a target, at the same time, I feel like there is such a lack of ownership and a lack of trying to hide the ownership for this big reveal at the end that I don't think is going to work.
So going back to Lady K's statement there, I saw you shaking your head, Madison, about that, and I saw you have a little bit of a rivalry with Simona this season. So what's your give us your perspective about her?
Of course, my best friend in the game is going to have a rivalry with someone that I barely spoke to. That is like so perfect of this season.
Yeah, I literally was thinking, I was going to say, Randy, like, now you're like 100% not voting for Robbie. I am 1000% not voting for Simona, just like Lady K said. I don't know, just like that one vote for Lori's vote. Like, she misplayed the idol, and then she just threw a vote on me, which is just like, okay, like, you knew the two names that were being talked about, so why did you have to throw my name into the mix of it? Like, I don't know, that just seemed like a stupid game move to me. And then she comes to me after and she's like, oh, I didn't know what was happening, so I just kind of put your name out. And then I was like, okay, if she puts my name out this time, like, how many more times is she gonna do that? Obviously, it didn't matter. I got voted out the next week, or next day, I don't know. So it's just like, I don't know, that just really, really bothered me. And then the whole Cole vote, too, which she was like, oh yeah, like, I'm sorry, I put your name down, but I didn't really know what was gonna happen. And I'm just like, clearly you did know, because you put my name down and it was a split vote.
We love to talk about cons, and I hate to put this out there, but I am trying to be fair to everyone. Everyone has pros to their game, and everyone has cons to their game. One of the cons for her is about that idol play. I don't know if any of you guys knew this, but the vote that I played, the compass play, the vote that I played a compass with Jack, and we did that like double compass play. She gave me her compass. I think Robbie too. Robbie knew about it. She gave me her compass, but I already had a compass at the time, which I did not tell her. So I played my compass, saved hers, and then I wanted to go to the end with her. So at one point, I made the decision to tell her. And it was the night that I was, on a business trip. And I was going to play the compass that night because I could barely get on and talk to you guys. And I was super nervous. So I was like, I'm just going to play the compass and buy myself another night in the game. And I told her that. I said, I have your compass. I'm going to play it tonight to save me. And she's like, I don't think you need to. Will you give it back to me? So we had this whole plan of just make sure I don't go home tonight. And on Sunday, when I'm back home, I will give you back your compass. Just make sure I don't go home tonight, but let me keep it for like security to know that you have my back. And then last minute, a minute before the vote, she said, Randy, they're coming after me. I need the compass. To the point that Jonathan was like, guys, I need an answer. Like he was about to kick us out of the room. And at the very last second, I said, okay, if they're coming after you, I'll save you. Have your compass back. Please play it wisely. She played it that night and she did not need to. So she wasted that compass completely. While I don't want to admit that, because I want to try to convince you guys to look more into how good her game was. I know that a few of you are like, we're not voting for her. But to respect the other two in the final three, I will say that was a huge con, as well as I felt like she got so paranoid at times when she didn't have to be. I can't tell you how many times I had to talk her out of freaking out at Crossroads when I'm like, your name is not even on the chopping block. You have nothing to worry about. So I do feel like she had a lack of faith in her closest allies. And I think her paranoia kind of took over at a lot of the Crossroads.
That's
Yeah, I just wanna
interesting that you
highlight.
said that, Randy,
Okay.
because she said that that was you. Like all of the conversations that Robbie would point out, like that you guys were taking so long talking, or why were you in there together? She would come back and be like, he's freaking out. Can we just make sure he's okay? Like that's really interesting for you to say that. Like it was never about her freaking out. It was always that you thought you were going to go home.
I want to step back to one thing Randy said, and I just want to emphasize it because I agree with it, and I think you've all done a good job so far. Randy said everyone has pros and cons, and I couldn't agree more with that. I think we've done a great job of looking at each player and what they've done well and what they've done poorly. And even though I've heard some of you champion certain players, you're still able to pick apart what they did wrong, and I think that's very good. And I'd urge you to continue doing that. I think this has been very productive. But I want to go back too, because I have my question that I forgot to ask for both Simona and Robbie that we did for David. So let's start with Robbie. If you think he engineered your vote out of the game, raise your hand. Okay. It's a lot more hands than I saw before.
I just had that. That's why I'm kind of like this, because I don't think Simona would have made the move if Robbie didn't. But I still believe that Jack was the one who orchestrated and put that notion out there that I was such a threat in the game.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair, because it definitely some of your ousters could have been engineered by people sitting here as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be the final three. But Mike, I cut you off.
Yeah, I think he definitely had a hand because what Randy said of a conversation, Robbie came up to him and says, hey, if we do a revote, let's vote Mike. So that answered the question. But I don't know how the 2-2-2 went, because it could have just been Simona, Robbie, Randy, 3, and I would have went home, but it wasn't. It was a 2-2-2. So I know Simona voted for me the first time, but I don't know if he voted for me the first time, and then the second time he's like, let's definitely do Mike. So like, I don't know how the votes went.
It was me and him the first time.
Oh, I thought it was Simona the first time. No.
If I remember correctly, I gave him a sign during, and I might have told you wrong. Like I said, my memory is terrible. I wish it was better, but I gave him a sign kind of saying, let's just go with the plan that we talked about, which was voting you out of the game if we were to go straight back. Mm-hmm. And he told me, at least from what he said, he saw my kind of like indication, what I was trying to send, the message I was trying to get to him. He saw that and he voted both times. I think Simona would have came over the second time.
Yeah, that's something I want to ask him, because I just want to be like, how'd you vote for me? And if it was David, was it him? Like, that's not going to factor into my vote. But anyway, long story short, I think Robbie had something to do. So, yeah.
And then Simona. So raise your hand if you think Simona engineered your vote out of the game. Okay. I see some half hands, so it seems like all three of them had hands raised to some degree.
I would like to counter
I did not raise my hand for David, Robbie, or Simona because I would like to say my vote out was not engineered by a particular person. It was just a matter of circumstance for me losing the challenge.
And that's a fair point.
We just have one last question for you guys. And I mean, we've broken down the game as much as we could, the pros and the cons for David, Robbie, and Simona. So, to you guys, the jury, what do you guys define as a winning game? And I'm gonna start with Lori on this because I haven't heard from her for a while. So,
Okay, a winning game. The person that I think that should win the game is someone who was not only on the right side of the numbers, the right side of the votes, that they had input. They weren't just being pulled along. They were someone who was dictating, this is what we're going to do, and rallying people behind them to get on board with their plan and do it with a smile on their face without pissing people off. And another part of it is also that there's this kind of a social game. So I think you kind of need to get to know one another, at least on some sort of personal level. Some of the, like, I don't know anything at all about Simona. I know a little bit about Robbie, know some things about David, know probably more about Mike and Lady K.
I do think you have to have a social game. That is probably the number one thing that I respect. Besides that, I go to the basic rules of the game: outwit, outplay, outlast. And my vote is going to go towards who, in the end, I look at all three of those categories, and in my opinion, completed all three of those. And I think whoever comes out is going to be a great representation of the season personally. But I couldn't be happier for the final three that we have.
A winner is a lot of things, but every time I have gone on a Survivor wiki page or an org wiki page or an org season list page or a Survivor list page, every time you see the season name, was filmed, how many days, and then you see the winner. And so I'm thinking, okay, this person won. How did they win? I want to be not only impressed, but entertained when reading their summary on that wiki. I want to be like, wow, this person played a great game, but also had a fantastic journey. I'm someone who enjoys the character, someone who embodies someone when playing as a theme that is carried throughout the season. And I like someone as a winner when they just have that complete package. They have a good game to boot. They have a character arc. They have some kind of journey that they're going on. I want specifically out of this final three to see obviously their games, but I want to see their journey. And I want to see not only how they fueled this journey, but what this journey has meant to them and what they kind of think they represent themselves as overall. And I think if a person does that exceptionally at the Final Ascent, they will have my vote.
that's awesome, Jack. Anybody else?
For me, I feel like socializing, of course, is a definite one, but also socializing in both ways, not just talking about yourself, getting to know each player, where not everyone, that's fine. I definitely think strategy is very important, and what you did from even before when you found out you were going to be on this game. Did you start strategizing in your head like I did? And did you have that? And were you able to at least carry through some of your strategies? Of course, it's a game and it's very hard to stick with, even with my third one, loyalty, you can be loyal to a default. Of course, you can never be loyal all the way through the end. I mean, that would probably end your game. but loyal to a default and not so much flipping. That's kind of what I see a winner, somebody that made some moves in the game. Doesn't have to be a beast or anything, but somebody that kind of was very well rounded with
I'll finish up. I think Randy said it best. Like, we all go to the outwit, outlast, outplay, and they wouldn't be here at Final Three if they didn't do that. So that's rocked in stone. They outwitted us, they outlasted us, they outplayed us because they're sitting in their Final Three. A winner to me, though, is every time I've won any org, at the end of the night, I go back and say, I could have done something different. And I need to hear that in their speech. What mistakes did you make? How can you identify with the wrong moves that you make? What could you have done better? Because then I know honestly what you did and what you didn't do. We can upplay and upsell what you think the jury wants to hear, but if you tell me your faults, then I can actually identify what really happened and what didn't kind of happen. So tell me where your faults were. Tell me where you were weakened. Tell me where you weren't strong. Tell me where you bluffed and you didn't make the right move, where you were wrong on the wrong side of the train. But why? Because then you tell me why you're sitting here. How did you make all of these mistakes and still end up sitting in these chairs? That's what I need to hear. A winner's a learner. A winner's someone that's always going to dissect their own game, beat themselves up, and come back and say, okay, I didn't play 100% right. I could have done this right. I could have done that better. And that's what I need to hear.
Lady K, we are always on the same page when it comes to Survivor stuff. Because, like, I was just thinking, I will not vote for a single person who gets up there tomorrow night and says their game was perfect. If I hear that, your vote is out the window. I don't care who you are. I will not vote for you.
Yeah. I think you guys make a bunch of badass points. Like, so I want whoever tomorrow, they're all deserving, like Lady K said, all the reasons that Jack, Randy, Lori, everyone, Jenny, but they need to discuss their game and just spread it out there. Talk about their weaknesses, their strengths, what they've messed up on, but they have to talk with grace and confidence. You know, I don't want one person to be, I'm here because I'm here and you're not. I want them to literally play out their game, lay it all out for us. Don't hide anything. Be confident about your moves. Let us know why you got there. Don't hide behind any walls because nobody wants to vote for a winner that's not confident. But I need it to be some graceful too, and I want to vote for the best player. And I really hope these three people bring it tomorrow. I really hope they just tell us everything we want to hear, and that they're confident because they got there for a reason and we didn't. So they need to tell us. Just I want them to enjoy the moment and just let us know everything we need to know. But it's tough. I mean, David gets a little bit sassy, so I hope none of them, try to up one each other. I just hope they talk with grace and really discuss why they want to win.
Awesome. Any final thoughts as of right now? Go ahead, Jack.
The last one. I love every single point that has been said as this whole final thing. I will say, often things that are looked as weaknesses or often things that are looked as strengths can be the other way around. And I think Lady K hit it on the nose when she said, if you had faults, I want to see them and I want to see how you overcame them. I think humility is probably one of the greatest strengths that you can have as a winner. I think conviction is also one of the greatest. They go hand in hand. I think if you have that, if you know what you did wrong, you can present that as an issue. It's literally how we do it in business. It's a STAR method. You do your strengths, you do your threats, and then you overcome. The winner of the season, for me, will not only have that journey, like I said, but will also have that humility and the conviction to know their faults. And that is it. I do have to go. Thank you.
That is a great answer, Jack. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank
Any
you.
final
I'll see you
thoughts
guys
from
soon.
Madison? Going once, going twice. You got one more second. There we go. I'm peer pressuring you guys into this. Think about it that way.
I honestly, I'm not talking much because I really just don't have much to say about them. Like, as like bad as that sounds, like I feel like I don't know enough about their games to like discuss. Cause like anytime I talk to them, they lied to me, so I don't know like what the truth is and what isn't really. I mean, like we've all talked about it as like jury members and stuff like that, but like when it comes down to it, like you need to know within like yourself what you want to do, not just listen to what other people want you to do or what their opinions might be. So it's just hard to do that until you hear their answers to your questions and to the other jury members' questions and all that stuff.
I won't
Awesome.
really be made up until tomorrow. I have an idea which way I'm leaning, but until I hear them speak, I can be swayed, depending on what they have to say about their game, most definitely. Because, and especially for Robbie and Simona, because I don't have that much experience with them. I've had a few brief interactions with Robbie, which were all positive. In fact, the very first vote on the Green Party, when we got Jack, Robbie pulled me into a room seconds before we were going to Crossroads and said, Jack has an advantage and he's going to play it. So if you're all voting for Jack, that's a mistake. And it turned out that he was telling the truth because Jack did in fact play a compass. He gave me a piece of information that he didn't have to give me to buy some goodwill. We never had the opportunity to work together, and I probably would still be here if we had. But you never know.
Well, I think we had a great jury roundtable here. I just want to finish this off here. And I want us to actually say something that Lady K said earlier. And I agree 100%. And this is the only time I'm going to give my opinion about this. This cast was absolutely stacked. It blew my season out of the water. This was an absolutely stacked season, and I enjoyed watching every single moment of it. The final three deserve an open-minded jury. So I encourage you as a former jury member to go in there with a decision, but have an open mind to change that decision. So I think that really wraps up everything here, and I hope you guys had a great time playing Expedition Online.
We're
So
throwing a party. You are more than welcome to join us, Jonathan. We're throwing a bash, Ponderosa bash. Bring your best alcohol, the best whiskey you have on the shelf. Bring it because we're throwing a party.
I think every single finale I've ended up trashed. So
If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications so you don't miss any upcoming episodes or bonus content.